Joining us now from the Huntsville area, Huntsville, Alabama, the southern space coast, if you will. It's not really a coast, space area, if you will, vibrant area. Congressman, Republican, Alabama, Mo Brooks. Congressman, great to have you back, sir.
My pleasure.
You know, Mo, you've been the guy. You've been just a stalwart in fighting illegal immigration, you know, back before Trump, when it was, you know, you were fighting the whole Republican establishment, Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, the slave labor crew, the gangster banksters, all looking for cheap labor. You know, you go back, and a lot of things that you said, outsourcing our jobs to China, NAFTA you were opposed to like me, a lot of the things that you said were very unpopular. Now you're like Nostradamus, because all the pipers are coming to play. And you look at what's going on in China right now with our entire manufacturing base there. We can't get PPEs made. They're controlling our drug manufacturing. And it's all because Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, cheap labor, the unholy alliance of all time, got together to lower wages, cheap goods, and shipped everything over there. Now what do we do?
Well, in my judgment, we need to elect elected officials who have the intellectual capacity to understand some of these public policy issues and their cascading effect, and then have the backbone to do something about it. Special interest groups in Washington are well renowned for their ability to buy votes on the House and Senate floor by promising campaign contributions that so many candidates and incumbents believe they need in order to win elections. So that's the key to success. Now, with respect to some of these particular issues, things that might help with understanding on border security is knowing that each year there are 2,000 plus dead Americans at the hands of illegal aliens, killed by illegal aliens on American soil. If that's not enough justification for a policy change, how about 30,000 plus Americans dead each year because of overdoses on drugs like fentanyl and cocaine and the like that are smuggled through our porous southern border? If that's not enough to grab your attention, to get you to do what is best for the American people, talk about the economics of it. You've got blue-collar workers who are struggling the most to make ends meet. Their wages are suppressed over $1,000 per year, which is a lot if you're a blue-collar worker, because of the huge surge in the illegal alien labor supply. And that's not even counting the adverse effect of lawful immigrants on the labor supply. And if that's not enough, then look at the 40-plus million Americans who have lost jobs because of governor and mayor extremist economic positions concerning COVID-19, wherein they shut down, to a large degree, our economy, resulting in 40-plus million Americans getting fired. Those are Americans now who are available to do any job that any employer needs doing, provided the employer is willing to pay market rates instead of importing cheap foreign labor of the legal or illegal variety. So that, in a real short, concise way, as best I can do it, focuses on some of the major issues with our failing border security policies. And I say failing because our policies are failing the American people, and in turn, because the American people are not prospering like they used to, that's opening the floodgates for voters to start supporting socialism rather than free enterprise, which is the economic model that made America's economy the best and strongest in world history. Now, I haven't even gotten to China yet. I don't know how much you want me to get into China, but that's the border security part of it.
We're going to get there in a second. We're with Congressman, Alabama Republican Huntsville, Mo Brooks. Ran for U.S. Senate, got beat there in, I think it was a three-way primary. Luther Strange came in second. He was the appointed incumbent. And then, of course, we had the complete and utter campaign debacle with Judge Moore, who got beat again.
10 people qualified. I came in third out of 10.
Yeah, okay, I forgot that. I know those like the big three. You came in
The big three,
in
yes.
third. Yeah, you came in third. We endorsed you because you've been there for us on this issue forever. I had no relationship with Senator Strange, and all I know is that you've been coming on my show since I started. We were a few lonely people back then. You, me, Jeff Sessions, a couple others talking about this issue. One thing that you said is, our border security policies have failed us. That's assuming we had one, because what we've had here really is the unholy alliance between Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, bankster, gangster Republicans that want cheap labor and Democrats that want cheap votes. And so there's been no border security policy until Trump came. But I want to get your view on this. The other day, President Trump fired the TVA administrator. By the way, the guy was making $5 million annually for some reason. Fired him for importing cheap labor and displacing U.S. higher-paying wage jobs for foreign workers under the legal HB1 visa program, which I've been calling a scam forever, because you bring cheap foreign workers in, even though you keep the jobs in the United States. Did you think Trump did the right thing? And how do we get that HB1 visa law revised so that we're not displacing American workers, but we can still get workers where there's a need, which was the object of it originally?
Well, let me clarify on one thing. The president did not fire the people who are making multi-millions of dollars per year. Those are the TVA executives, like vice president, CEO, president, people of that nature, that title. He fired board members who are responsible for ensuring that these executives do not take advantage of taxpayer funds. Okay, now granted, it's collected via rates on electricity, but still, it's taxpayers who are paying those rates. And I thought it was an excellent decision by President Trump to get the attention of the board members in hopes that they would start hiring and firing executives with TVA that would do a better job on salaries, exorbitant salaries on the one hand, on the other hand, on not firing Americans, particularly in these economic times, and replacing them with less expensive foreign labor. That's nuts. And I should add a third factor kind of behind the scenes, and that's a nuclear power plant called Bellefonte. It's probably the worst boondoggle in the history of the United States of America. Many billions of dollars were spent. That's federal government money spent building a nuclear power plant that is yet to produce a single watt of electricity, and that was recently sold in an auction for $100-something million. Think about that. Billions upon billions spent, no electricity produced, and they sell it at auction for $100-something million, and now they're in court to prevent the owner of the facility from finishing it and producing electricity because they don't want the competition.
Unbelievable.
It's horrible.
Unbelievable. And, if it hadn't been for the president exposing this is the kind of stuff, other than maybe in some Tennessee Valley local media, it just gets under the radar screen. This is the corruption that's been going on forever that this president, congressman, is trying to weed out, that you can never really get to the bottom of it. Let's get back to HB1 visas. Legislatively or by executive order, how do you fix it so we don't have the HB1 visa program exploited to ship in cheap labor and displace American workers and leverage it for what it was meant to do, which is bring in workers where we need them, shucking oysters in Maryland, farming in the South and parts of the Southwest and California vineyards. That's what it was designed to do. It was to bring in people where we had a real shortage, but now it's being exploited. How do you fix that?
Well, it's easy to fix if you have the right elected officials. So the cure is for the American people to start electing more senators and congressmen who are willing to change the law so that it benefits Americans and not the special interest groups that plow the money into it. Let me give you an example of the biggest special interest group on this cheap importation of foreign labor issue? It's the United States Chamber of Commerce. That is their number one issue. They spend tens of millions of dollars each election cycle trying to ensure that we bust the floodgates on bringing in foreign labor, because that decreases the cost for American businesses to do business. Basically, they're saying, to heck with Americans and struggling American families. We want to make more profit by artificially altering the labor market. This huge surge in cheap foreign labor, of course, distorts normal supply and demand economics in the labor market, and American families get hurt while these Wall Streeters, as you mentioned them earlier, they get rich. And you wonder why we're shifting towards socialism as a society. What the United States Chamber of Commerce and others of its ilk are doing is actually promoting socialism, because a lot of our blue-collar workers no longer believe that they can get a fair break, that they can no longer work in these trades and earn a living good enough to be able to support their family. So they're succumbing to the Democrat arguments about class warfare. And so we need voters to get smarter and elect elected officials who will do what's right for America rather than what's right for their campaign pocketbooks.
It's really unbelievable that the Chamber of Commerce, which my listeners know I've been railing against for some time, their CEO, Tom Donahue, last time I checked, the guy was making $1 million a month. This is a trade organization. Okay, it's the biggest cheap labor, pro-immigration, open borders lobbying group in America. And what they're doing is sick, spending all this money. And their objective is just to drive down wages. That's it. So you're right. I'd never thought of that. What you said, Congressman. By the way, we're with Congressman Mo Brooks, a Republican congressman out of the Huntsville area in Alabama, a leader on immigration. I never thought about what you're saying. They're playing into the hands of those that are trying to bring a socialist change to the U.S. by screwing blue-collar workers, putting them in an unfair environment, so they throw up their hands and say, I might as well try something else because everybody's screwing me, right? I mean, I never thought of that.
Well, that is exactly the ultimate result of the policies that the Chamber of Commerce is advocating, and it's going to be the Chamber of Commerce members who, long-term, pay the ultimate price for this policy folly.
It's incredible. Let's get to China. We were talking about that a little bit earlier and talking about it with you last week, and the fact that we have shipped our jobs there. Now we're trying to get our supply chain back. I cannot understand, under this time of pressure we're in, the legislation that is on the table specifically for Congress to act on to get our supply chain back sits there stalled on Pelosi's desk. Even the Democrats don't want to deal with it. Why?
Well, again, it comes down to campaign money. There are major special interest groups that do not want us to have fair trade policies with China. Generally speaking, those are the groups that either now profit from this China trade or hope to profit from China trade. It might be the special interest groups that ship the materials from China, or the ones that actually handle the importation of them in our ports around the country, or the transport of Chinese goods to the retailers, Walmart being a principal retailer, but there are lots of them. All of these groups are lobbying against us imposing fair trade policies with China. Then you've got other groups like the farmers' political unions, often referred to as Farm Bureau. In my state, it's Alpha. They hope to be able to one day export agricultural products to China in order to make more money, okay? They, in turn, lobby for that exportation of agricultural products to China, which on its face is pretty good. We want that. We want those exports. But what it means in order to get those exports is you cannot, according to the Chinese dictates, you cannot then do the things that are necessary to cut our $400 billion plus trade deficit with China each year. And for clarity, that's $400-something billion a year of American wealth that is being exported from our economy to China, where that money then circulates throughout the Chinese economy, making China stronger, giving them the wealth they need to build their military that's becoming more aggressive, giving them the capability of alienating more and more countries from the United States of America. And you saw what they did with the World Health Organization. They did that, basically bribed the World Health Organization to give the world bad advice on this pandemic using American money that they got from us by hook or by crook. Unfair trade practices, stealing our trade secrets, you name it.
And so their aggressiveness in the South China Sea, now we've got NATO involved in it. They sent one warship there. Mike Pompeo has been out front in raising U.S. awareness about a coming confrontation as the Chinese continue their military buildup. Yet, I've got to be candid with you, Congressman. When Joe Biden was vice president for Obama, Obama put him in charge of this. And he did two things. Number one, he went there with his son, got his son Hunter $1.5 billion in Chinese bank funds to start a company that he had no experience in. The second thing he did is, as far as the expansion in the South China Sea, Joe Biden did nothing. I mean, he just did nothing. He walked away. And so now they continue to expand that, and now we've got a real problem on our hands. So if you like Joe Biden, what changes there going to be with China policy?
Well, Joe Biden and the Biden family syndicate has been corrupted by the Chinese Communist Party. The evidence is overwhelming. The evidence is clear. It may or may not be legal. My belief is that it's probably legal, but that does not change the fact that the Chinese have, to a very large degree, purchased the Biden family syndicate, and in exchange for that, Joe Biden and others have greased the skids to make it easier for the Communist Chinese Party to take advantage of American companies, American employers, thereby costing Americans wealth and jobs.
And so if he's elected president, any of the things that you just talked about vis-a-vis the CCP or China, getting our jobs back, ending their stealing of our intellectual property, shipping jobs there for cheap labor, their expansion in the South China Sea or other things, anything that you mentioned based on Biden's history, that goes away, right? It's just business as usual with the CCP. If Biden was, he's already said he'd take off the tariffs.
If the media reports are accurate, the Biden family syndicate has been making millions of dollars off of the Communist Chinese Party and has been, in exchange for that money, adversely affecting foreign policy vis-a-vis China to the detriment of the United States of America. Now, perhaps he will change his stripes if he becomes president of the United States, but it's a risk I'm unwilling to take.
Okay, give us an assessment of the campaign right now, Trump's chances of winning re-election. Sum it up for us, Congressman Mo Brooks.
President Trump is a remarkable individual, as evidenced by his having come virtually from nowhere to win in 2016. And then when it was Republican versus Democrat, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, he still came from nowhere because the polling showed him with a substantial deficit all the way up until the time the final votes were counted. And then the only thing that counted was in the Electoral College. Donald Trump won overwhelmingly. So I'm skeptical about the polls that the Democrats keep putting out, that the fake news media keeps putting out, because I've seen what Donald Trump has done in the past, and I expect him to do very well between now and November, making this a real horse race. So it's going to be up to the American people to decide whether they want socialism or they want freedom and liberty, which is the genesis of free enterprise, whether they want border security or not, whether they want law and order or they enjoy the chaos, the violence, the murders, the robberies on our streets that the Democrats, with their policies, promote. So there's going to be a huge contrast in the vision for America, and I pray the voters will figure it out and do what is necessary to reelect Donald Trump, because the alternative could be the doom for our country.
One word answer, because I'm out of time. Is Tuberville going to beat Doug Jones in Alabama?
Yes, up by 17 points.
Wow, quite the prediction. I'm an old
Well, that's
Miss
polling
guy.
yesterday.
He's up big. Of course, I'm an old Miss guy, and he said he wouldn't leave the rebels. He'd have to take him out in the pine box. 2 weeks after that, they took him out in a posh limo. That's what I think of that. But I'm glad he's up by 17. He's a lot better than Doug Jones. I'd rather have those Senator Mo Brooks from Alabama sometime in my near future. Congressman Mo Brooks, Alabama,